Hi guys. Oh, I am on time again. That's good news. So you're welcome to our 18th Hangout, which is pretty cool. Today's Hangout is kind of like a progress update on everything Leaf 4. Um, yeah, and then we're basically talking about everything that's happened for Leaf 4 and all of that stuff. Basically a lot. There's a lot to talk about for this week. And finally, an actual date for the beta release. That would be um, I don't know, coming Monday, probably. I think that's when Laravel also has their release, so it's kind of a good day for a beta release. So everybody will be raving about Laravel's release for the next week or so. So yeah, it's a pretty good time for a beta. Yeah. So speaking about Laravel, uh, so they have a bunch of stuff coming up. I don't know if you watched LaraCon. Um, yeah, but then there's actually a lot of stuff. Um, there's like Laravel 12. I don't really know what's new. Let me switch to dark mode. There we go. Okay. So as usual, if you have any comments, questions, just leave them down in the comments and I'll read them. You know, the usual stuff. So yeah. Um, this week has been pretty heavy on development like I've been. Hey, yeah, yeah. Sorry, Leaf MVC 4 was actually supposed to be out last week, but then I've kind of held off for a few reasons. Um, so I think the very first reason is kind of the console, which is done. But then the next reason was a bunch of things like schema files. So schema files are probably like the biggest change in Leaf MVC 4. In version 3, we have migrations and all of those stuff. Oh, right. Um, yeah, the documentation. Speaking of the documentation, so the reason I've not published the documentation is I kind of wrote a documentation before I started building a lot of things. For instance, queues, Redis. I kind of worked on those stuff just this week, but I didn't want to publish the documentation with things that didn't exist yet. So that's how come there's been a delay with the documentation. But then I'm kind of done with it. So this should go out, as I said, on Monday. This should be live. So you'll be able to try the beta together with the documentation, and then there's the CLI, which I'll get to on the stream as well. Yeah. Um. So yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot, and I've actually pretty much lost track of all things. Okay, I think I was talking about schema files. So yeah, they are pretty new, and I have not really seen any other framework have something like that. I think the closest thing I've seen is Prisma. If you are from like the JavaScript world, Prisma has schema files, something like that. Uh, yeah, kind of. They are not exactly like this, but then um, I don't know. I think Prisma schema files are like the closest thing I've seen to this. But then I've not seen anything in like JavaScript. So yeah, this Prisma schema files again. They're pretty much like models, kind of. Yeah. So I'm kind of like skeptical about pushing it out because of how new it is. So I've been doing a lot of testing, just to make sure it's at a point where it won't give people problems. Because schema files are replacing migrations, um, factories, and all of that stuff. So basically, it's replacing your entire database layer. So I just need to make sure it's up to standard, like up to a point where it can safely replace all of your stuff without giving you issues. So that's what's up with the delay. So yeah, as I said, it's going out next week Monday. This time no delays because documentation is done and then a lot of other things also done. So now we have the documentation. This is way more detailed. I talked about last week how anyone who had problems with documentation could just sort of like chip in. And yeah, now we have learning paths, and all of that stuff. Great separation between the different kinds of structures with if you're using Leaf as a micro framework, or if you're using it with Leaf MVC, or if you're building a full API. So there's like a lot more separation and yeah, just a lot more detail in the documentation. So that's like the first part. Um, but all of this has been rebuilt in the direction of just helping you build faster. That's basically all what Leaf 4 is about. There's probably nothing crazy. I mean, yeah, there are new stuff, but then the whole idea is to just help you build faster. That's all of it. So you can just take it as not a bunch of features, but um, the existing features work better together. The existing features are faster, more performant, they work well together, all just to help you build and ship faster. Like that's the whole idea with Leaf version 4 and Leaf MVC version 4. Um, so yeah, pretty much everything has been redesigned, which is probably the first rebuild I've done since I think the version 1 launch. Because when version 2, I think jumping from version 1 to version 2, that was a complete rewrite. Version 2 to version 3 wasn't actually a rewrite. A lot of the features were carried over. But this is probably the first rewrite. And the really cool thing is, although it's a rewrite, there are no breaking changes. So technically, you don't have to do anything in your application. You just run composer update. And then you'd probably have to move your migrations to schema files. That's the only change you'd have to make. But I am thinking of having like a migration tool or something for you. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So what's new? What's new besides the documentation? Yeah, new documentation to just help you with stuff. It's a bit more detailed as I mentioned. It has pretty much everything new with Leaf. And then Leaf MVC and then Leaf MVC for APIs. More documentation has been written to cover like Leaf MVC specific stuff. So now you don't have to kind of guess how will I use this particular thing in Leaf MVC. Yeah, now you have the actual documentation for it. And then as I said before, like things just work better together. So for instance, you probably already know this if you are using Leaf MVC already, but then Leaf MVC comes with LeafDB built in. What's the database documentation, right? So Leaf has this little database thing that allows you to run queries. So sometimes you have something where you don't have to create a full model for it. Or maybe you want to run a raw query like this. Or there's just a table somewhere that you query only once and it doesn't need a model. So you can use LeafDB to do stuff like this. But then LeafDB has always only been able to connect to your default database. That's the way it was built in version 3. But with version 4, LeafDB shares the same configuration you use for Eloquent. So like if you're using Leaf MVC, the configuration you use for your models is the exact config that LeafDB also picks up. So now your entire database layer in Leaf MVC is one thing. Eloquent and LeafDB share the same configuration, which means LeafDB can connect to all of your different database connections. So with, I think I should show version 3's configuration. Config, and then I think there's database. Yeah, by the way, this is something you will not find in version 4. The config folder doesn't exist for good reasons. So we'll also see how that works. But what I'm saying now is all of these connections work perfectly with LeafDB. So you don't have to, for instance, if you had like a Postgres connection and it wasn't your default database connection, you couldn't use LeafDB to query it. Now you can. It's like very simple things like that. How now everything just works together. So just helping you build faster. Yeah. So that's an example, which also, by the way, means that LeafDB actually now supports multiple database connections. I've been having this question for years. I mean, since last year, and then I think someone opened an issue. I think it was Terry, if I remember right. Terry had an issue about this. Like people have always wanted a way to use LeafDB with multiple DB connections. Now you can with Leaf DB version 4, which hasn't been released, by the way. I just created a version 4 branch for pretty much everything in Leaf. So yeah, now you can do that. Actually, and then this is the exact syntax, not a spot though, but I think I should have something open somewhere. So I was doing a bunch of lookout tests on like different things. Uh yeah. And then you can just wait, was it? Yeah, I think it was in route. Right, right, right. So basically you can do stuff like this right now. VS Code is shouting at me because I have the same files, like different versions of the same file, so it doesn't know where to get the IntelliSense from. So just ignore all the red and yellow lines. But basically, this is what you have. So like, I think I have, this is my database connection. Technically, you don't need it, but I wanted to connect to multiple databases. So I have the default MySQL stuff, and then I have a Postgres. I think was it Postgres I used? Yeah, it was Postgres. So there's a database. So basically, two different connections, and then I can use them like this. So if you use the normal syntax which you are used to already, you find it works the same way. Basically, there's no change in syntax. But then if you want to use a different connection from the database config file, you can just do db with a configuration with a connection name, and then whatever you want to use. So basically, that's the idea. That's the idea. Um, so that's just one um enhancement, I guess. And it works with Leaf as a micro framework or with Leaf MVC if you're building APIs. It's all pretty much the same syntax, same all of that stuff. Um, more stuff were added, as I mentioned in the beginning. There's like yeah, you can use Redis, and just like any other Leaf module, you just need to Leaf install Redis like this, and then Leaf will automatically pick this up and then use Redis for you. It has support for both the PHP Redis extension. So if you are using, I think it's PHP Redis. I think that's the repo for the, yeah, that's the repo for the PHP extension. Yeah, so there's like a native PHP extension written in C, so you can install that using, I don't know, the instructions are here. However, you install PHP extensions. If you use Laravel Head, I think they have like a Redis thing in there. So you can use this, but then if this is not available to you because it's not always available, on some web hosts you can't actually, you don't have access to the PHP extensions. Yeah, on some web hosts actually depends on the web host you're using. But if you're using a managed server, then you can do anything you want. But then point is this is not always available to you, so you can use I think Redis. It's like a Redis extension written in PHP that you can actually install from Composer. So if that's not available to you, you can just Composer require yeah Redis like this, and then Leaf will automatically detect um, you've installed Redis, so it's a switch from using the native Redis extension to using Redis. The syntax is the same either way. You don't have to change anything. So over here, I had an example app route here where I was just taking this from Redis. Um, it's pretty much the same syntax no matter what you're doing. There's like Redis set. Sorry. There's like Redis set, Redis get. You can use arrays. Yeah, pretty much. So that's already set up for you. And if you run, let me just pull up the terminal here. So if you run leaf serve, leaf or just for anything it needs to run servers for. So in this case, it detected Redis. It will start a Redis server for you. It detected there's a queue stuff set up, and then there are jobs also available. So it will start all of this stuff for you. Yeah, a little something taken from Laravel, but yeah, point is, it does all of this stuff for you. so that you don't have to do them yourself. That's pretty much the whole point of it all. So yeah, in local development, Leaf will pretty much auto detect anything you install. And if it needs to do something for you, it will do it. So the whole thing is you just need to restart your server. I'll kind of think of a way to make it kind of auto detected so you don't have to restart your server. But yeah, right now you just restart your server, Leaf will run anything it needs to run, and then stuff just works. So yeah, right now we have an example job. We have something set in Redis. So we are just basically reading stuff from different database tables, different database connections. So this is a MySQL connection. This is a Postgres connection, and then there's a Redis connection with a dispatcher job. Um, this uses the database driver for EV stuff, but soon that'll be a bit different. Okay, so I just need to run this. And I have my MySQL data here. I have my Postgres data here, and then Redis is a test. And then my queue, which I dispatched over here, the job I dispatched to the queue works over here. So there's the output from it. By the way, this is what the example job looks like. So it just takes in a user ID. So over here, I passed a user ID of 1 to it because jobs are stateless, pretty much. Thank you, not Alvin. Ooh, yeah. So it just outputs this. So you can use your Leaf response, request response, anything over here. Actually, you can't use request because, as I said, jobs are stateless. But then you can use response stuff. So over here, I just echoed this to the console. Yeah. So Leaf MVC is now a lot smarter than before. It shares configuration with pretty much everything, and it tries to do stuff for you automatically so that you don't have to do them yourself. Or, as I said, just making development a lot easier so you can build stuff faster, ship stuff faster, all of that. Um, and in light of shipping stuff faster, there's one more thing that we are going to be releasing with Leaf 4. Documentation for this isn't done, but yeah. So this is Leaf 0. I think on last week's stream I showed this. So I don't know how that's going to work, but I'm going to merge the pages together. So basically, Leaf 0 is like free components, page sections, UI blocks. Because as you know, Leaf tries to do everything for you on, like the server side. From authentication, mailing. Basically, Leaf now pretty much has everything you need to build on the server side. So I was trying to do something similar on the UI end. So there's a bunch of components that you can probably just copy and paste. So these are examples. As I said, I'm now kind of working on this. But then the whole idea is you should be able to build pretty much anything you want to build, from like landing pages to dashboard views, what's not. Just copy the code and then paste and be on your way, pretty much. So you have everything server side kind of done for you. And then with Leaf 0, you're going to have everything. Oh, that's a little bug. That is on top of the navbar. Oh, it looks like everything's on top of the navbar. Anyway, I'm going to fix it. Yeah. Point is, you're going to have everything front end done for you. I mean, obviously, we can't do everything for you, but then this is like a good starting point. So you can just copy this code, paste it, modify it, and it's all Tailwind, CSS, Alpine JS. I noticed I should probably have like React and Vue versions. Unfortunately, I don't do Svelte, so I don't know how that will work out. I only do React and Vue, so those are what I can work on. Yeah, so maybe have like React and Vue variants for that too, because yeah, Leaf supports all of that stuff. We also support Svelte though, but I don't know how that work out. I heard Svelte is pretty similar to Vue though, but then I've never written a line of Svelte before. So anyway, let's see how that works out. And speaking of React and Vue, Leaf now supports or Leaf version 4 because I've not actually released this yet. It's on the v.4x branch, v.4, v4.x branch. Um, we now have support for React 19 and all of those Vue, latest Vue version, Inertia 2, and all of that stuff. So that's pretty cool. We are no longer behind, or soon enough, we'll no longer be behind because I've not released a stable version of these yet. Yeah, so that's also pretty cool. So as I said, like a lot of stuff happened this week. There was a whole lot that was shipped out this week. Queues, jobs, file system changes. I don't think mail got any changes. Redis was added, which means we are one step closer to finally having a cache module for Leaf, which has so far not been necessary. It hasn't been necessary because Leaf has been pretty fast anyway. But then with all of the stuff I'm adding to Leaf MVC, yeah, it kind of slowed down, but it's back. It's okay now. You won't have performance problems like out of the box because it's really fast, basically. But then now more than ever, Leaf would probably use a cache module. Yeah, a bunch of HTTP changes, um, more documentation updates, um, and then the CLI. I think the CLI changes were the biggest, probably. Okay. Okay. So let me just make this full. Da, 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 da. So for a couple of weeks now, I've been talking about Leaf Sprout, which was supposed to replace Symfony in like Leaf CLI and other places. Okay, so this is Leaf Sprout. It's basically, I actually don't know what you would call it. It's like a tool to build terminal applications, kind of like the Symfony console, but a whole lot easier to use. Um, yeah, so there's been a lot of progress. I released a new version not too long ago. That added, what do you call those, prompts? Yeah, added prompts. So I mean, we are one step closer to having a stable Sprout. But anyway, it doesn't need to be stable because it's not going to be shipped with version 4. However, it's going to be shipped in the new Leaf CLI. So this v4.0 beta CLI you see here is completely powered by Sprout. And it comes with a bunch of new cool stuff. Like for instance, the new Leaf create command and this beautiful, very, very beautiful prompt. Which I'm extremely happy about, if you can't tell. Yeah, so basically it's just a new way of prompting, and it's all built into Sprout. So basically, to use prompts, all you have to do is this. It's not going to be shipped with Leaf MVC 4 for the same reason I have not yet pushed out a beta. Yeah, Leaf MVC 4 currently uses Symfony console to write your commands. So if you have like custom commands you want to run um with Leaf MVC, then you'd be using the Symfony console. The problem with replacing Symfony console in Leaf MVC is Symfony console just has so many things. Yes, Sprout is supposed to have a lot of those too, but then Symfony console just has a whole lot, probably a lot of things I've not even heard of myself. So just jumping in straight to replace Symfony console and Leaf MVC 4, that's a stretch. That's actually a big stretch. So yeah, that's actually kind of like my honest take on that. Maybe in the future I would have that, like for instance, prompts like a huge deal. So like having prompts in Leaf MVC for your custom commands. I don't know how many people actually write custom commands. Um yeah, but having it in Leaf MVC would be pretty cool. But then replacing Symfony console as a whole in Leaf MVC 4, that's actually kind of a stretch. Yeah, so anyway, back to this. This is the new Leaf create command. You basically just type in your project name. I'll name this my app. And now you have this where you can kind of select what kind of project you want to create. So basically, same as what you had in the version 3. You can select a basic Leaf application, you can select a full stack Leaf MVC application, or you can select the Leaf MVC application with just for APIs. So I'll go with this option. So that will install Leaf MVC version 4. It's still in dev. That's why you see like the v4.x dev stuff. So that will scaffold it up, and that was actually really fast. So yeah, now to ask me if I want to scaffold authentication, I'll go with yes. And then it will ask me, like my view layer, what do I want to have? So I can go with the default, which is just Blade, or I can have Blade, Alpine, Tailwind, or React, Vue, Svelte. Uh, let's just go with React. Oh, and by the way, now installing React also installs Tailwind. So that was one more change, because if I mean it's 2025, you'd probably be using Tailwind. And if you don't need it, you can just uninstall it. It's pretty simple. It doesn't break anything. So anyway. So do I want to set up testing? Probably not. And then ask me if I want to set up Docker. I don't want to set up Docker either. So yeah, it just goes through, installs React, installs Tailwind, and then yeah, that's it. We have our application. This would probably take a while. NPM is slow as hell. Anyway, so basically this is the new leaf create command. It takes you through a little bit of a setup. Thank you, Terry. Nice to have you. Yeah. So basically that's our new leaf create command. And there is a whole lot more actually. There is just so much stuff that's changed. And a lot of it was just kind of inspired by what Laravel is doing. Because I mean, as I said, Leaf 4 is supposed to be the fastest way for you to build stuff. And uh, just being behind on a bunch of stuff, which we have been for a while, is not exactly the fastest way to build stuff. So, yeah. So, okay, done. Our application is done. As I said, NPM is a bit slow. I normally use PNPM, but okay. Anyway, so we can cd into my app. And as usual, open in VS Code. Yeah. And this is what we have. So same as always, we have your app folder that has your entire application in there. We have node modules because we installed Tailwind. That's actually a lot of dependencies. That's crazy. Hell, all we installed was Tailwind and React. What's all of this? Huh. A couple of days ago, I actually went through my PC and some of my node modules folders were like huge. That's actually wild. I don't think Composer does that. Let's see. Uh, our only dependencies for Composer are like all of the Leaf stuff. And then we have testing, linting, and then figure PHP, which we use for like generating fake data. Yeah. Let's see. Over here we have inertia stuff, React stuff, Tailwind, and then V. So yeah. Anyway, same as always, we can just run this with a Leaf serve. Leaf will detect Vite, and then we'll start the Vite server together with the with the Leaf server as usual. So in the other application I had here, I didn't have Vite installed, so it just started Redis and um, workers, and then the Leaf server itself. But over here I have Vite, so it's kind of did all of that stuff for you. Yeah, so basically that's Leaf MVC 4. Yeah, actually looks pretty simple now that everything has come together. There was a whole lot though, actually, because it pretty much took the whole week to get this together, including the queues and the new CLI and all of that stuff. Yeah. But anyway, we have these node modules and then the JavaScript stuff because of React and then Tailwind. Besides that, everything is pretty much the same as you have in Leaf MVC 4. You have your controllers. We have auth here just because we installed authentication as part of the walkthrough. The rest is the same. Inside your database, you have schema files. You have your models, and then you have routes. Auth was added by authentication. You have your middleware already set up for you. Front end was set up by React. So if you have anything you want to output from your React component, oh, and by the way, I think I already mentioned that, but that it's using React 19 now. Version 3 was kind of stuck on React version 18, but now you have React 19, React DOM version 19. So yeah, everything working as it should, I guess. So I'll just open this up. What ports did this start on? 5501. Okay. And because I set up authentication, I kind of have this here. This screen would probably be changed before we launch. Yeah, I don't know why I thought this was a good idea to have the screen designed this way. Anyway, these are things you can change yourself because all of the code is shipped with your application. But then yeah, it'll be changed. It'll be changed. You don't have to deal with this. This is pretty nasty to me. So yeah, you'd have much better looking screens. And then you'd also have these done with whatever front-end framework you choose. So during the walkthrough, we had like React Vue Svelte. About this Svelte then, okay, but never mind. I'll probably figure that out. Yeah. So I think right now the screens are still with Blade. So yeah, we'll have them with React, we'll have them with Vue, we'll have like different variants of it, although looking the same. So if you decide to install React, then the PHP leaf scaffold auth command will scaffold a React view for you instead of like the default Blade view. So yeah, I think Leaf still needs a bit more automation, so it doesn't install the wrong stuff for you. But this is a good start. So by the time the official beta is in, you would have that view layer automation done for you. So if you selected React during the install process, then everything generated would be in React, not in PHP. I mean this stuff. Yeah. So you can still see Blade here. Some of these pages are still Blade. They're supposed to all be in React, like this. Okay. So yeah, worked for me. Um was there any other thing done this week? Yeah, I think that was a lot though, but I just can't seem to remember the stuff I worked on. I think these were like the biggest stuff. Blog, obviously, Allo Inertia, CLI, which we just looked at. Sprout, which is powering our CLI, FS. So all of these got like version 4 updates, MVC core, DB, all of those. But I think basically they are all just working together. So it's kind of difficult to pull each of them out and then just specify their features. But yeah, basically this is what you have with Leaf version 4. Um, yeah, that's pretty much what you have with version 4. I think there's still a little bit of documentation left to write because especially on the queue part, I didn't go exactly as I didn't build exactly as the documentation said. So for instance, with the documentation, this should have been with 1. So basically just a few things left to fix. Um, what else? What else? Okay, no comments. Okay. Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So besides automating the view stuff, for now at least, there's still a lot of things on the list, but then they are not exactly necessary for the beta. Let's see. Yeah, none of them are that important for the beta. So I think the view stuff is probably the only thing left. Yeah, so that's Leaf MVC. Leaf MVC for APIs is basically this exact same setup, except that you don't have a view layer, meaning all of these stuff are gone and your views folder is also gone. So basically nothing about views. It's all just routes, controllers, models, your schema files. And then when you generate stuff, for instance, if you like PHP leave scaffold auth, it will automatically scaffold the API version of it. So basically just tiny changes, but it's still Leaf MVC, still the same setup. I think you also don't have the storage folder because the blade is not there to create it for you. Yeah. So not much change. And I think besides the new CLI, my personal favorite thing is you actually don't have any business with your public folder. I personally wish I could delete it, but then web hosts, and you also need a place where you can configure stuff. And then, I mean, that's like your application root, so you can't exactly delete it, but then you don't have anything to do with your public folder now. So that's actually pretty cool. I think that's probably my favorite thing about Leaf MVC now. Yeah. So the beta of Leaf MVC would be out this Monday, and then that's a fixed timeline this time. So we're not going to have any more delays. And I think Monday is also when Laravel is launching Laravel 12. So that'll be fun to see. Um, in my books, Leaf MVC is already on a level where I think it will be faster to build with Leaf MVC than Laravel, just because of how intuitive things are. Like this is pretty much everything you have to work with for your entire application, and then Leaf is supposed to scaffold stuff for you automatically. So and then it's more performance. So there's that too. Although people don't care about that, but anyway, it's there if you want it. If you want extra performance, it's already there for you. So yeah, in my books, Leaf MVC4 is already kind of there. And then for Leaf as a micro framework, I think I closed my terminal already. But then if you want to use Leaf as a micro framework, not as like all of this MVC stuff, although it's like really lightweight. So I actually wasn't a big fan of Leaf MVC myself in version 3, just because of how many stuff were there. That's actually no longer a problem for me. Would probably be nice to get rid of a few more files, but anyway, that's not a problem because this is pretty much everything you work with. But then if you're building like an API with 2, 3 routes, then you probably really do not need all of this stuff. So then that's why Leaf as a micro framework is available to you. So you can do something like this. So Leaf create tiny, and then as a basic Leaf up. So this will just scaffold Leaf for you. I don't want to set up this and I don't want Docker. So I can cd into tiny fish and then open this up in VS Code. Okay. So I think it's pretty much the same. I don't know if that actually updated to version 4. You know what, just to be sure, I am going to leaf install leaf at v 4.xf. I'm actually not sure I updated the console to install leaf version 4, I think. Yeah, so it didn't install version 3. Anyway, yeah. So basically, this is it. This is everything. This is a welcome file, just an HTML file. You can get rid of that. But yeah, if you're building an API with like 2, 3 routes, then you really do not need all of this. At least in my opinion. Um, you might actually want something structured. You might want to have like schema files and all of that stuff. So yeah, you kind of do have a good reason to use Leaf MVC, even if you're building a tiny API. But then to me, if it's like really tiny, then everything could kind of fit on, I mean, in one index of PHP file. And then, yeah, comparing Leaf to other micro frameworks like Slim, I think with version 4, Leaf has kind of pulled away from most other frameworks, just in terms of everything, simplicity, performance, just everything. And then if you ever need more features, like you want to use a database, you can always just leave install DB or leave install authentication or anything. So basically, everything is available to you, but then you still have a really, really performance micro framework. So yeah, I mean, um, yeah, that's just a little comparison with like something like Slim. I don't know if now though, but the last time I used Slim was probably about 5, maybe 4 years ago. And Slim was actually really good. Like, if you don't already know that Slim kind of inspired a lot of things you see in Leaf, like this router was kind of inspired by Slim. I think Slim was also my first PHP framework. So that's cool. Anyway, but then back then, if I had to use Slim, like a database with Slim, I'd probably use PDO. Like, PDO equals like new PDO, and then you have to connect and then do your PDO configuration and then pass it into Slim using like the PDO stuff like this, which was kind of annoying. And then there was no what do you even call that thing, like parameter binding. And a lot of PHP micro frameworks are like this, which is probably why a lot of people still talk about how unsecure PHP is. But anyway, with Leaf, none of that stuff. You don't need to do any of that stuff. You can just DB connect. And by the way, I don't think I mentioned this, but then Leaf DB Leaf DB defers the connection by default. So even if you connect your database like with DB Connect and then you pass in all your credentials, it doesn't actually connect to the database at that moment. It will only connect when you run a query. Like if I pop in down here and um, just do like a DB select users and then just get everything in the table. So that is when it will actually connect. So it will just make the connection and then definitely leave greater than Slim. Definitely. Um, yeah. So in terms of like simplicity, performance, developer experience, I think like Leaf is far ahead of Slim and most other PHP micro frameworks, like way ahead. I've actually forgotten what I was supposed to connect to. I think, yeah, this is me. I do this on every stream because I actually keep on forgetting. I keep on forgetting things I'm supposed to remember. What database should I use? What database did I use here? Da, da, da. Yeah, and I keep getting questions from people like, why do you keep forgetting this? Why do you always look to the documentation and all of that stuff? Yes, I know I wrote a lot of Leaf, but then you're not supposed to learn all of Leaf. I think that's another big selling point about Leaf. You're not supposed to learn all of it because Leaf is in like very, very tiny modules. So if you need something, just install it, read the documentation about that specific thing, and then just move on. You don't need to cram the whole framework, and you don't need to learn. Um, you don't need to learn everything. So I think we can leave the and it should kind of look for a port pass. Let me just do 8080. So leave serve 8080, and yeah, I get everything from my database. So basically, that's pretty much it. That's how simple it is to use stuff. So all of these things you saw in Leaf MVC are not limited to Leaf MVC. Fun fact, most of them were actually written for Leaf as a micro framework and then converted to stuff that worked for Leaf MVC. So similarly, you can just leave install auth. Um, you can leave install pretty much anything. Anything that works with Leaf MVC except queues and Redis. I think even Redis should work. I don't know why I set the restriction for only Leaf MVC. But anyway, you can pretty much leaf install anything and it will just work. And you don't have to do any configuration. Over here, I just connected to my database. I didn't have to configure anything special. And it's pretty much the same way with Leaf Auth. Let me just Leaf install Auth. And then once I install Leaf Auth will automatically pick up my database connection. So I don't have to do anything. I can just pop in here and then do something like Auth. Hopefully I remember my credentials. So you can do something like auth login and then just pass in a bunch of credentials like your email. And the password is either password or testing. I don't know which is which. So let's try both. Let's try password. And probably, oh, I didn't start my server. Right. And false. Probably wrong password or testing 123, I think. Or the user doesn't exist. Anyway, so if that fails, I can just do something like auth errors to get the reason why it's failing. The password is incorrect. Yeah, I have no idea what the password is. But basically, that's how simple it is to use anything in Leaf. Everything is just one Leaf install away. Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, it's just a question I get often. Because people sort of expect that because you wrote the framework, you should probably be able to do everything without reading the documentation or asking questions or running into errors, stuff like that. So yeah, people always just kind of, why are you checking the documentation? Like that kind of thing. And yeah, I pretty much forget the API as soon as I publish the documentation and the package. So I have to refer to the documentation like 100% of the time. Okay. Yeah, so basically, this is Leaf as a micro framework. So if you don't want all of the structure of Leaf MVC, which is not a lot, basically just pretend none of this stuff exists because you probably don't have to do anything besides like configure your EMV. Um, yeah, so besides your EMV, basically you can just pretend none of this stuff exists because you'll only be working in here. And there's not a lot of stuff here. It's basically just your PHP files. Over here, you only have YML files, and there's your entire database. If later on you decide, oh, I forgot to add a database table, you don't need to create a new schema file. You can just pop it in here like something else. And then the type, whether it's a string or it's a text or anything, you can just pop it in here. And then you PHP leaf, just like DB. I forgot what it was. Was it a DB migrate? Is it still a DB migrate? Yeah, and then you can actually choose to migrate everything, or you can migrate only a specific schema file. So basically, this is all you get with Leaf MVC. Sorry. But then if this is still too much for you, if this structure is still too much for you, then you can use Leaf as a micro framework. And it's not limited to just building APIs. You can actually build full stack applications with this, or you can just use it as a router for like server side rendering. Basically, the options are limitless. Yeah, Terry. Yeah. Yeah. Actually, to be honest, I'm not a big fan of reading documentation myself. Um, yeah. So, unlike a lot of folks, take other frameworks for instance. I never actually read like Slim's documentation to the end. I would just pick like a specific feature and then read about that. So then someone would probably see something that's like, hey, why didn't you do this? And that happens a lot with other frameworks like Laravel. Like, why didn't you do it this way? And then, oh, I didn't know you could do it that way. Something like that. So, yeah. So I was just wondering, why do other frameworks kind of expect you to read, not like the whole documentation, but then read um, large sections of documentation? So that was kind of the reason why Leaves documentation is like just pick one feature and then read about it, and you would probably understand everything about that feature. So yeah. So that's pretty much Leaf MVC 4. Wait, I think I was talking about full stack applications. Oh my, not me forgetting this again. Okay. Okay. So with building full stack applications with Leaf as a micro framework, not with like all of Leaf MVC. Basically, you just need to define your view layer. In Leaf MVC, it's done for you, but then if you are using just Leaf, you have to install um, a templating engine. Leaf has options for you. So you can choose to install Bare UI or Blade. Bare UI is all about performance. If you need every single drop of performance from your Python, nice to have you. Yeah. So if you need every single drop of performance, you can't spare even a single request per second, then Bare UI is probably for you. It doesn't have any compilation. It's basically just PHP. As you probably already know, PHP itself comes with like built-in templates, and that's what Bare UI takes advantage of. So it doesn't compile anything. It's just raw PHP. So you can use that if you need like every single drop of performance from your application. But then most applications don't need that. So we have Blade, which is Laravel's Blade. So yeah, I'll just install that. One thanks. What's happening? Anyway, so I was about to say everything you saw me do with like Leaf install something can also be done through Composer. So you can Composer require something else. And every page in the documentation has that. So if you don't have the Leaf CLI installed, you can just switch to Composer and then that would work anyway. So over here, you just need to leave install Bleed and that would install Bleed. And unfortunately for all of us, it comes with a bunch of Laravel stuff that we may not need. But then unfortunately, Blade is from Laravel. Nothing we can do about that. Yeah, so I think that's actually what we need to do. So we can just put up a views folder and then add like an index.blade.php. Um, yeah, and then just hello something. And I've forgotten how this works because I don't think I wrote a documentation for this, but then you should be able to response render index. So let's hope this works because I do not want to go figuring this out. I didn't run my server. So leave the port 8080 and is that working? We're supposed to see like a hello world. Uh anyway, actually not sure. Let's see. What are we missing? I think we're supposed to do something. I've forgotten this. Why did I not write a documentation for this? I think you're supposed to automatically configure this for you, but then I don't remember what you're supposed to do to get it configured for you. Was it attached view? No, that doesn't sound automatic. Anyway, let's try that. Let's try that and let's see what happens. So I think it takes in the view you want to configure. For us, that's leave blade. I actually don't even remember how to configure this. This is crazy. Okay, so leave blade class, I think. Okay, and then configure. This is not it. I might have to go back to GitHub to go read through from it. Yeah, but then leave is supposed to configure this for you. Okay. So yeah, we're reading through Leaf's code. If this is your first time here, this is a small thing, but it is because I always keep on forgetting stuff, unfortunately. Um, yeah, let's just attach view. You know what? I think I have a faster way to do this. I can just go through the commit history and then check out the changes that were made. Okay. Da, 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 da. Is this it? Ask shortcut for attach views? No, no, none of that stuff. Now this was from last year. I'm actually even on the right branch. Oh, hi Ashley. Oh, that's quite a crowd today. Okay. Version 4. Okay, that's kind of weird. Anyway, so I'll do this myself. Leaf has this for you. I just do not remember how to do it. Um, okay, so up, attach view, and then up, I think it's like configure. And then you can pass in an array and set your views page like this. The name of my views page is views, and then the name of Blade unfortunately caches stuff. It's not like bare UI, so you need to specify a cache directory. So I'll just change this to views slash cache, and I think that's pretty much everything we need to do this time. Argument one config online PHP. Okay, now that's kind of weird. Okay, yeah, that's actually really weird because we just did this. Huh. Okay, that's kind of weird. Leave this configure one person, two expected. Oh, I know what's up. That explains why it wasn't working. We still have this problem. We still have this problem. So install the wrong version of Blade. I do not know why. So I think we can go like v4.xdev. Oops. What's the latest version? Yeah, sorry about that. It's just the wrong version. Let me try at v3. I don't know what version it will install. Ugh, so annoying. Okay, so delete this and yeah, installed version 2. It's supposed to install version 3 or higher. Okay, okay, there we go. So I'll just restart my server, and I've still not figured out why the configure. What's the problem this time? Okay, are we sure it actually installed the right version? Okay, okay. Composer update. Okay, there we go. And finally, we have something. Yeah, I'm actually not sure why that keeps happening. Because every time I stream, I have to reinstall a different version of Blade. I don't know why. Anyway, so yeah, what I was saying before I went to read through the code, you can also build full stack applications using just Leaf as a micro framework. You don't have to limit yourself to just APIs, although it's a whole lot easier to build full stack applications with Leaf MVC, as we saw earlier, because there's just pretty much everything you need just available to you. But over here, you have to do a little bit of configuration. I don't know why you have to do this though. Anyway, that's just me forgetting everything as usual. But yeah, that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. From full stack applications to APIs, if you want a micro framework or you want a full MVC structured framework, you have everything you need. On the server side, if you need queues, you need Redis, you need your caching, every single thing you need is available in Leaf. And with version 4, you are also going to get Leaf 0, which will give you front-end stuff you can just copy and paste in your application. You have React 19, you have the latest version of Vue, latest version of Svelte. You can use other templating engines if you want to. So we just saw attach Vue here. The Leaf doesn't actually restrict you to any specific Vue engine. You can use anything at all you want to use. So this is an example with Smarty where we do a little configuration. And then it's the same thing with Leaf MVC too. So if you want to use a different engine from what Leaf gives you, you can just copy and paste this command like this. So this will publish your Vue config for you, and then you can just update it. So for instance, if I was using bare UI, I'll just switch that to bare UI, and then automatically everything will be bare UI because Leaf will initialize this for you, and then return an object you can configure. If it uses a different kind of rendering system, just like Smarty, because you don't see this often, this is not something regular. So you can kind of teach Leaf how to use your view engine. Basically, you can customize the whole framework to meet your specific needs, which is also why we still support PHP 7.4, although we said we're going to switch to PHP 8, because a lot of people are confined to legacy versions of PHP just for work reasons. So there's probably no framework, no maintained framework that still supports PHP 7.4. So Leaf just gives those people a way out. So if you want a couple of libraries that still work with PHP 7.4, or if modules work with PHP 7.4, so you can use those. Okay, so basically that's the whole idea with PHP. Sorry, with Leaf version 4 and Leaf MVC 4. They just give you a way to build and ship fast. If you want something customizable, something lightweight, something that doesn't get into your way when you're building, then that's Leaf MVC 4 and Leaf 4 for you. Yeah, so there's still just a few things left to add before we launch. Um, yeah, I've forgotten what those are. Okay, weird. Okay, I've forgotten. But yeah, there's quite a few more things before we launch. But then the beta of version 4 would be out this week. I'm sorry, on Monday. And then this documentation you are seeing here would also be um, online. So you can view those two. So I'll just make the final tweak. And then on Monday, we have the betas dropping. So both Leaf 4 and then Leaf MVC 4. And hopefully I'm able to figure out why Blade still keeps installing the wrong version, because that's kind of weird. And I have no idea why that keeps happening. Okay. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Um, Everything else would be on Discord. Actually, I've not been on Discord this week too. Sorry. I've been busy with pretty much everything you guys have seen here today. So hopefully I'll be online on Discord more next week after the beta is released. So yeah, if there's anything you guys need, just hit me up on Discord. Oh, and then one more thing, I also found this really cool GitHub thing that allows me to tag myself on every issue immediately. So yeah, you probably don't have to um, tag me anymore because it would automatically do that. So yeah, if you have any issues, just hit me up on Discord or on GitHub. Just open an issue and I will take care of it or get on there with you guys or something. Yeah, this is Leaf MVC or Leaf 4. Yeah, I don't see any new questions, comments. So I'll catch you guys. I don't know if I should stream during the week. Anyway, we'll see that. We'll figure that out next week. So I'll catch you guys next week. Stay safe and have a good weekend. All right.